Hi there, I'm Danny, spiritual therapist, and today I'm so happy to bring you the wonderful SunBôw. Good morning, SunBôw. How are you?
Good morning, Danny. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I cannot tell you how much I have looked forward to this. When I was growing up as a kid, we heard about this beast, this furry thing in the wild called Bigfoot. And I lived in Canada and America and different countries, and it was always the Yeti or the Sasquatch or the Bigfoot, etc. And I watched so many programs that disturbed me on television with these big burly men going out trying to trap and kill, shoot, a Yeti. And I've sat there with my heart thumping, thinking, I hope they don't get it. I hope they don't get it. I hope they don't catch it, and it's always very kind of, but they produce them that way to get you excited. And then I came across you via our mutual friend, Vivian Chauveau, who is the Arcturian hybrid human, beautiful. There's a broadcast on my channel with her too. And then when I found out, oh my gosh, this man, he knows it. He's got the truth. So I'm going to stop talking. And we know we've got a little bit of distortion, so people, please be patient and kind. There's a little bit of audio issue here, and I'll repeat everything SunBow says if it's not very clear. Sir, would you please gift us with the true knowledge of what the Sasquatch is?
Knowledge, from what I have learned, comes from different sources. The first source is direct experience. It's the best source of knowledge about any topic. And then second-hand accounts from first-hand witnesses. And then there's also ancient traditions, knowledge that has been passed on for generations. If we look at many tribal cultures around the world, we have a very deep, detailed knowledge about what we call Sasquatch, or hairy humanoids in general, with many hundreds of different names in different tribes. So knowledge can come from all these sources, and it's better to use all the sources and compare and find what we could call truth, which is facts backed by many sources. Like most people, when I was young, I heard of Sasquatch. I was interested in the topic. We all saw the Patterson footage and all these clues, but I didn't know anything more than most people, that maybe they're a big ape or monsters or prehistoric people, whatever. Which I found out with time and experience that it's none of the above. I started having experiences. My first close encounter was 40 years ago now. And when a Sasquatch came and put down our camp while we were in it. Story I told many times, so I won't repeat it. But
oh no, please do. SunBôw, please do repeat it. I know it's old news for you, but my audience may have never had the pleasure of hearing and meeting a person who's met a real Sasquatch. So please do share it.
Okay. Well, that story is not the most significant. It was in a way because it started me, but it's not the most intense level of communication. It was actually my first. When 10 young men left to camp out by the Fraser River near Chehalis Reserve, the Salish or Salish people reserve.
Camping out by the what river?
Fraser.
Fraser River.
Mightiest river in BC, British Columbia.
British Columbia, Canada.
Yeah. Which is the hottest place on earth for Sasquatch. There's more reports and encounters there than anywhere else on earth, as far as my research has shown. The next place is Washington State, just next to it. To go on with the story, we didn't know anything about nature or respect or spiritual matters. So we just went and camped out and didn't really respect the place. So in the middle of the night, we heard some heavy footfalls come through the bush. And the 6 inches thick post that was holding our lean-to structure snapped just like a toothpick, and our roof fell in our face in the middle of the night. It was a very, very dark night, no star, nothing. Heavy rain, very heavy rain. We saw no light, we saw nobody, except one who was camping out in his small tent. And he arrived panic and told us, he said, "You won't believe what I saw, but there was a big hairy monster who put down the camp and disappeared like a ghost." That was my first encounter. We didn't understand anything, but what it did is that it awakened me that there might be something. And also I was, the same week or so, it was my first vision quest, which is the very beginning of shamanic learning. And most ancient shamanic cultures around the world, you have to go on your own, and usually at a young age. It's part of initiation. And go on your own in nature and talk with spirit and meet your own spirit guides and teachers, and learn your power, your responsibility and missions. It's just the beginning of getting into it. Then it takes years and years, basically a lifetime of practice to assimilate.
May I interrupt for just a moment, just because of the audibles, and you're French Canadian with a beautiful accent, and it might be a little bit tricky to understand because I'm struggling a bit. So I want to go back to the point that when you had this first physical encounter, you were on a campsite, you built some kind of a lean-to, and you said specifically that you had no respect for the nature at that point 40 years ago. Is that what you said?
Yeah, as a 17-year-old coming out of the city, we are all young guys. We were on native land. We didn't think about it, asking permission or even honoring or thanking or giving back.
Brilliant.
So that was the first lesson Sasquatch taught me.
Oh, I just love that. And I had to make sure that we capture that. The second thing, now you've moved on and you're going into your shamanic studies, your shamanic journey, the questing, going into the forest, sitting and questing. And that is where we're at now. So please continue.
Well, that was October 13th, 81, when I did my first vision quest. There was a full moon and a huge northern light that was crimson red. And I met my first spirit guide that flew 3 times around me, and we started. At first I freaked out. I completely panicked. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't have any teaching in my education. And I was refusing this telepathic contact that was wanting to connect and to teach me. And it took a long journey to learn, to go see all the native shamanic cultures interact very much with the spirit world. It's a very well known reality for them. So they know a whole lot about it, including about paranormal phenomena like Sasquatch or star people, because it's part of all ancient cultures.
Part of our ancient cultures. The star people and the Sasquatch are part of our ancient cultures. Yeah. Can you tell me the name of the tribe you mentioned on the Fraser River in British Columbia? You said you were near a tribe, a beautiful tribe of Indigenous. What's the name of them?
They're mostly known as Salish. It's a linguistic family, but they call themselves Silas.
Silas.
The reserve is called Chehalis.
Chehalis.
It's all the same root, of course, different pronunciation. They have several other Salishan nations with different languages of the same family. They're all very, very familiar with Sasquatch. In fact, the word Sasquatch itself comes from the Halko-Melin dialect of the Salish people of Chehalis. That's where the name Sasquatch comes from. They have on their tribal emblem or symbol is a Sasquatch. A lot of things there are around there are called Sasquatch. Like there's the Sasquatch Provincial Park, and there's the annual Sasquatch Days held in Harrison Hot Springs, BC, is dubbed the Sasquatch capital of the world since 1938.
Perfect.
Became popular in 1958.
That's wonderful. This is such a beautiful journey. Thank you so much. And thanks for letting me interrupt you so we can make sure that everybody watching can really follow the beauty and the beginning point, you know, the mapping point of this amazing real phenomena. All right. So you're on your shamanic journey. You've got your quest, the spirit guides flown around you 3 times. You're trying to refuse telepathic communication. And then what happened?
Then started a journey that has been staying for over 40 years by now. Which I call Shamanic Journey. That's why I'm writing this contemporary Shamanic Journeys book series now. I'm working on the 3rd volume. Then I started going first around all kinds of spiritual schools and religions and churches and ashrams, reading different sacred texts. And learning from every school, but finally found more my answers with ancient, ancestral, native, indigenous shamanic teachings, namely with the Hopi, and where I first went in 1983. And I've returned about 20 times since. I was adopted in 87 there by the Coyote clan of Padvilla. And learned a lot with them and their elders. So that also led me to connect with many different elders of dozens of indigenous nations of the Americas and in 2020 in Australia, who most often have some knowledge of about Sasquatch, if not first-hand, second-hand account or ancestral stories. So that confirmed to me that was the best way to find the answers to my spiritual quest. So from there, I often say that it took, I started having encounters with star beings, spaceships, and Sasquatch occasionally over the years. So, but I often say that it took 33 years of shamanic training before I was finally ready to go out and openly meet them and communicate with them, because I had been through over the fear, over getting familiar with all the paranormal phenomena they manifest, over also learning how to deal with spirit world, how to develop my telepathy, how to be more intuitive and work with other spirit guides. So that's what prepared me to be able to go and connect with those elder relatives who are our closest relatives in the tree of life and the genealogy of DNA. They are much more ancient than us, so they have had time to evolve way beyond our actual capacities. Psychically, mostly, they chose, instead of choosing a way of materialism and technology as we have that makes us more and more dependent on external means and tools.
Mm-hmm.
They chose to develop their own internal natural powers and abilities to materialize, dematerialize, communicate through telepathy, teleport, and turn invisible, and all these kinds of things that have been documented over and over that show us that the Sasquatch are not an animal, they're not an ape, they're not primitive people, they are very advanced, very ancient, evolved people who have much to teach us.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for phrasing that so eloquently. May I ask you a question? Because some people watching this have only ever seen the buffoonery of the men chasing and hunting Bigfoot in the swamps, there's a piece of footage. It's very, very famous of what is thought to be an actual Sasquatch walking. You know, it could be a man in a suit. It could be, I would love to ask you, as somebody who's met the Sasquatch, has connected, has seen them physically in physical form in front of you, has communicated, still communicates often. Was that footage, in your opinion, fake or real?
It's a very delicate question because my answer is not popular.
Please,
but
please.
I'll answer first to your first question, which when you ask me if I have seen them physically, I've seen them physically many times. I have seen many physical proofs of them, evidence like footprints, hair samples. I have been given 7, 8, or 9 hair samples so far from different individuals. Plus the tree structures they build and all kind of other signs that would belong to describe. They have showed up on photos and footage that I have taken as well. But what is very important, essential to understand anything about Sasquatch is that they have interdimensional abilities. So which means they have understanding of our multidimensional nature, that we exist not only on this 3-4% of the known energy that we call physical matter. There's also this 97% left of existence that we are part of, which include antimatter, dark matter, we could say, in other words, etheric or astral plane. In the book 2 of the Sasquatch Message to Humanity, they asked me to explain pretty well in deep details what the dimensions are and how they interact, so we understand our part in this universal fabric.
Wonderful. I'm going to stop you for a second. I'm just going to go over some of the notes so we can just go back a bit for those that might not be able to hear everything we're saying. Once you've been on this long-term shamanic journey, October 13th, there was a crimson red moon. There was an initiation, a coming to spirit for you. In 87, you were adopted by the Coyote clan, and you're very involved with the Hopi Indians too. We just want to honor all of those beautiful tribes, our brothers and our sisters who have been so pushed out. If we would be so more advanced had we just allowed the Indigenous love and the wealth of knowledge and beauty to just flower. You know, we wouldn't be suffering today. This is my personal belief, like we are right now, had we honored and loved the elders, the knowledge. I'm loving that you're saying, or answering the question about the what did I write here? The first one, oh yeah, that you're saying they built structures, the Sasquatch beings build, what do the structures look like? What are they built from and where do they put them? And are they multidimensional?
Yes, and yes, there is certainly, it's like art. They have a style. Yeah, you can like recognize this is Sasquatch art. but it's as diversified as art can be. They often use whatever materials are available in nature, most often. So usually trees, maybe rocks, maybe moss or leaves, and they often make arrangements. It could be like a teepee shaped is very common, but it could be tent shape, or it could be arches, it could be square shapes. There's all kind of styles you can use. I've found dozens of examples by now and documented many. It's also same in Australia or Tibet or other places in the world. It's common to their cultures.
Okay.
What are those things? People, I wonder. They don't have much practical use. They're very often too small to be a shelter and uncovered. So they are communication devices. They leave those work of art for those out there who will notice, because most people might just walk by and say, oh, it's a pile of branch, a broken tree or something. But if you pay attention and you start looking, you start observing, you realize it's full of intelligent codes. For instance, you see the way they are interwoven cannot be done by nature. No animal then does that. Sometimes I've seen green boughs that are woven into the structure with knots and everything, so that shows it's freshly made. So it's all intelligent codes for us to decode, to understand, to read.
Amazing. So they are literally, this is so beautiful. Again, people who've been walking the woods and the wilderness, people who've been looking for such a beautiful being, will have walked past actual structures built, hand-built by the beautiful Sasquatch, squares, circles, arches, and their communication antenna points to other Sasquatch in their other dimension, which I want to ask you about, like where they're actually from, that we'll come to that question, that can look down and see it as a marker, a communication marker. We've scoped the area out. We've been hanging out here. It's fine. You can come. You can be. You're not going to be like, endangered in any way. I love that. That's so. For me, this is so exciting. I didn't watch all your stuff. I saw you. I thought, oh my God, this man's amazing. Let me invite him for a conversation. And then what you're saying is just like blowing my mind. So I know others will just be so excited to be told this information. Now, if we are to look into the solar system, are they part of this solar system? Are they outside of it? And if we could locate them in space, where would they be?
They're star people, if you want, because we potentially are star people too, if we evolve to that consciousness, if we realize we're not just limited to our little human mind frame. We are infinite beings. We have multidimensional abilities, and we can travel the stars. So people like Sasquatch, they have, because they have been here for much longer, there's petrified human-like footprints, bigger than humans, that are found around the world in geological deposit dated 200 or 300 million years. So that gives an idea how long they've been around. They've been here before the dinosaurs, just like there's been civilization on this planet long before us humans showed up. So we didn't invent intelligence. We were just discovering it.
That's true. We certainly didn't.
So the Sasquatch have been on many planets, but they have been on this one for very long. Where do they originate from? We could ask the same question about us human, because one thing for sure, there's human-like humanoids being reported from other planets. Mm-hmm. There's also, we have a splice gene, and they identified 265 horizontal genes in the human genome that were introduced through interventions over ages. So we are a melting pot. We have ancestors that came from elsewhere. And we also have our closest relatives, the Sasquatch. The same have relatives on other planets and ancestors from other planets. So it's a big cosmic family. And the more we start to look at it this way, the origin is not as important as who they are, their essence.
I understand that there's a mass education happening on the planet with people watching broadcasts like this. And we're learning to understand all the different levels, all the different beings and species. And for a lot of humans, they're really recognizing that they are this melting pot, as you call it, this cosmic, multidimensional, beautiful, royal being. And so they're learning about the different star systems, what they're actually called off planet, what they're called on planet. And it's really helping people to discover themselves and what we truly are. So if you said the Sasquatch have been on different planets. Can you name a couple of those more recent planets where they've been, please?
Yeah, one that has it's been also brought not only in my books but by other channels is the planet that used to be between Mars and Jupiter. That is called either Malkut or Maldek, depending on Sumerian or Babylonian tradition.
Oh, wow.
Planet that was destroyed and turned into the actual asteroid belt. There's also on Mars, we can see a lot of ruins and remains and a giant face that looks much closer to a Sasquatch than to a human.
Yes.
So there are a few clues from confirming what they told me, that they've been throughout this solar system and beyond, long before us humans were here. So it's hard for us to fathom how big our family is.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God. That face on the moon, I mean, again, many people have seen, and the fact that NASA need a straight answer, someone else calls them by that, that they treat us like imbeciles. They treat us like, I can't even think of a lower species low enough to how the people that run the planet or were, because it's all dismantling now, as we know. Thanks also in large to the intervention and love of our star families, but also for us coming into a higher consciousness. But that, and many things that have been filmed and photographs from the different Cassiopeia, telescope that have gone over and snapped, aerial views of Mars and Jupiter, etc. That face, of course, people have gone, oh my God, there's no way that is not made by man or species. And for you to say that's a Sasquatch, it's like, wow, like that right there. That's so fantastic. Thank you so much. I also wrote down oh yeah, Maldek, Sumerian. God, that's brilliant. Sorry, I'm so excited, and I'm not going to calm down because I never ever heard that before, and that's just blown my flipping mind. So they've been on these different planets. We think there's definitely truth coming out there. You're matching everything, mapping everything for us. Can I ask you, now you've verified they're a being that is way older than us, and I would just like to say the next time you speak to them, I'm sure they're aware that, we're having this conversation because we need to get more people. So I'm sure there's a blessing. It's not about me. I'm just a broadcaster. But I would like to apologize to all Sasquatch beings in any dimension for the dreadful behavior of the humans. They look down, they go, God, why are the humans so cruel to each other? Why are they killing each other? Why are they so hurtful to each other? Again, there's a big light shone on all of that. So thank you so much. This is amazing. Can you tell us how tall they are? Are there different species and types? Can you describe any of that kind of anatomy for us?
Yeah, they have many different species. As I was saying, they have been, they exist since very long, and they have been on different planets. So they had a long time to diversify into hybrids and subspecies and so on. There's, for instance, the two types that are well identified pretty much around the world or in many places are the tall ones and the short ones. There's the tall ones can be anywhere between like human size and twice as tall or bigger. There's even people who make a distinction between the tall ones like human size or giant size, you know. And there's short ones that are anywhere between a foot to 3-4 feet, that are very well known, especially around the Pacific. They have names from Hawaii to Australia, New Zealand, Indonesia, Sri Lanka. They are very present there.
Would these be like trolls? Not trolls, gnomes, or the menehune in Hawaii?
Exactly, the menehune is one of them. There's
Stop!
also
Really? Oh my God.
They call it, scientifically, they call it Homo floresiensis, that they found just like 20 years ago. They found like 3 foot tall humanoids in human hominids, actually, in Indonesia on Flores Island. It's classified. There's many like I said, New Zealand, Australia has many names for those small beings. I actually met them out there. I even got a short piece of footage, which was at night, so it always feels bright eyes. Yeah, there's many different types, and some people make a difference between the Sasquatch in North America and, for instance, the Yeti in Tibet or Central Asia. They call them Yeti in Russia, Siberia as well. There's in China they say the Yeren, wild man. There's the Didi in South America, and in Australia they have the Yowie, which is the most famous name, but they also say Duliga. So we could go on, you know, for hours just listing the different names they have.
But thank you just for that, because again, it's just bringing all the information, all the separation that we have been as a species ourselves, all the different languages, all the different meanings. We're bringing them all together out into the light so we can understand, oh my goodness, this is the same as this, the same as this, the same as this. You mentioned the name Yahweh. Did you mention Yahweh? Did you say
Yahweh,
that?
yeah.
Say that again, please.
Yahweh.
Yahweh. Okay, good. Because again, as we're all coming to understand different vibrations and sounds and names, a lot of people are focusing on Yahweh as a God head being, you know, and right. So I don't want to make a confusion. I just want to try and be as clear as we can possibly be. Right. So they're different species, different heights. I'm blown away. The menehune. And some people have said the menehune, if we were to look at them as a longer term reality of species, we're looking at the leprechaun. In Ireland. Now, I don't know if that's correct. It doesn't feel intuitively like the leprechaun are the Sasquatch, but hey, what do I know? I'm learning for the first time. What say you about that?
There are many different beings in our cosmic family. The Sasquatch and their family is one of them. There's what we call little people, or like you say, a leprechaun. They have also names around the world. They are part of many ancient traditions, and they are, I know from different legends, but first-hand experience also, because they were part of my channeling. That they work just with the Sasquatch and the Star Elder. They're the same crew, you know. They're the same team. Watchers of the world, and as elders they teach and they watch. So there's just to give an example, there's a pretty clear photo that when I did the opening ceremony the first psychic Sasquatch spiritual retreat in Chewelah, Washington. That was in 2016. It's still ongoing, this event. There was a photo of me by the sacred fire with orbs around, many orbs. And in the corner, there is this little leprechaun, I call it, or a small little man. And it was noticed after it was posted, and just about everybody sees it unless you really don't want to, which is also a free choice. So that shows that they're with us too, those elementals or nature spirits. They were also honored much longer before us. They helped develop biodiversity and the ecosystems, and they still maintain the balance.
Wow, that's almost make me feel so emotional just to have more understanding, and also knowing that so many people now will shift the vibration of consciousness that is looking and projecting fear of the Sasquatch, or hatred, or blame, or a horrible curiosity that could bring harm to them. You know, my honor of being honored by you sitting with me and sharing what you know, I just feel like an emotional shift, because if I'm feeling like this, having a different respect and love for them and understanding who they are, then I know others watching this will feel the same. So I've got goosebumps top to toe. That's my truth bumps, or my God bumps, or whatever. Wow, wow, beautiful. I know you've written several books. You're on your 7th book, and I do want to come to that, but I want to make sure that we bring as much Sasquatch information now before we move to that. And I'm thinking of 1,000 gazillion questions, and I don't want to overload you. Could you tell us a little bit about the children, the Sasquatch children that come from the parents? Not to assume anything, as I told you, I never assume. Why would we do that? But is there like a male and a female, more mature, that then bring offspring? You know, how is that done? What is the birthing process? If you know, if you can share, and if not, that's okay. You know, I just want to say that we've got a broadcast on my channel, Danny, spiritual therapist, from Elena Danan, and she talks about the complete and utter Pleiadian birthing process. So Vivian did not want to discuss it. Vivian, our Arcturian friend, who's the Arcturian hybrid, she did not want to discuss it, and I honor that. And I want to give the same honor to you and say to anyone who want to know about a species birthing on their planet, the Pleiades, go to my channel and look at the little girl from the stars. And it is in great depth and detail there. So my love, continue. Please answer what you're comfortable answering.
Yeah, when I talk about our cosmic family, it's because we are relatives. Our own DNA proves it. That we've had many ads. So that means there's some interspecies, not only interaction and communication, but also we could say interbreeding or hybridization. How does that happen? It's always different depending on the case, who's involved, what's the intention. But interdimensional knowledge allows, even our scientists are starting to discover that you can transfer a DNA code on a laser, for instance, or on any kind of waves, introduce it into another organism or an egg, so you can create hybrids even without any kind of physical contact. There are many cases that it's a fairly well-documented phenomena that there's many women are selected to give birth to carry hybrids, whether it's star beings or Sasquatch. Usually the whole process is done interdimensionally. There's no physical intercourse or anything like that involved. It's just carrying the DNA into our human genome to give a new branch, basically, a new lineage. If some people might tend to freak out about it, there is, of course, it depends all of the intention, because that, like anything else, can be used as a weapon or as a mean of control. It has been.
Well, yeah, and it is being globally, as we know.
But in some cases where I can talk about my own lineage, which is one case very, very quite common anyway among many indigenous people around the world, especially in the north and northwest of North America, in Australia or in Tibet and Siberia and places like that. There are many, many cases that I've documented, some in my encyclopedia, about stories when there was a Sasquatch human hybrids or a Yeti human or whatever, Yahweh human, and my great-great-grandfather was, with his twin brother, was found in the wilderness of the Northwest Territories by the Great Slave Lake in the mid 1800s by some Cree trappers, and they were wearing raw hides and living in a hut of branches, eating bugs and roots, and they didn't speak any human language. So when I asked my Cree cousin, my native cousin, who's the family historian, about that story, she revealed that we have Sasquatch in the family. So I'm 1/32 hybrid, we could say, and probably much more that we have no idea about, because we probably all have so many different branches in our lineage that we're not aware of.
Yeah, there are people that say in general that we have people who connect to other star systems have reported and shared information that we are at least 22 different strands of DNA from other species in the universe multiverse. And of course, for some people, that'll be like too much to handle. No, I'm A, I'm B, I'm, you know, whatever. It's okay. It's okay. We've got this far. You know, this news is not going to do anything other than hopefully open more of an awareness and more consciousness. My goodness. I know we're jumping around a bit, but because there's just so much to you. Again, you've given this complete encyclopedia. You've devoted your life to bringing information, to sharing the Indigenous stories, the Sasquatch stories. You're on book number 7 right now. You're still on a continuous shamanic journey. Do people come to you in person for, I'm very concerned myself about this real, I live in Costa Rica, and there's such a horrendous trend for ayahuasca, 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 you know, and there are people who are, you know, qualifying over a weekend to become a shaman and like, yeah, dude, let's go do some microdosing mushrooms and I can take you on the ayahuasca journey, man. Yeah, let's do it 50 times. And the amount of people who are saying, I was great, I had a few good journeys, and then I had a bad one. So I'm just feeling like, can we put a little bit of attention on that for you as a real life, long-term shaman? Do you think it's safe for all these people to be doing ayahuasca every weekend?
That's a big topic.
I know.
First of all, don't ever trust someone who calls themselves a shaman.
Bingo.
That's what my wisest, greatest teacher and elders have been teaching me, and I'm talking about real shamans. You can call someone a shaman if you see that, because shaman from the Tongass language means spirit person, basically, spiritual person. So I'm a shamanic practitioner. Okay, I practice. But anyone who say I'm a spiritual person or a spirit person or a gifted person, it's a little bit self-boosting, boasting. You cannot decide, the others judge, right? People who advertise themselves as shaman, stay away. I've been teaching, I've been taught, you know, that if you want real teachings and ceremonies, don't pay for them. There's not supposed to be sold, or healing is not supposed to be sold. It can be rewarded, but it's no price on spiritual, authentic spirituality, spiritual work. That's my way. Of course, I'm poor. But it's my dharma. The greatest reward is the satisfaction of doing your dharma, your spiritual duty, your mission, and helping the best you can, and seeing the results, seeing people pretty much on a daily basis coming to consult, or ask questions or advice, and seeing how my writings and words have been helping many people and more worldwide. I got most heart-touching, encouraging reviews and feedbacks from my readers. Some people say that it changed their life reading my books. It brought answers to their questions. It's the best book I ever said, and I'm just quoting. So this is, to me, is like, anyway, we don't carry anything beyond, and we're all connected with all the dimensions. So everything is here, is ours now. We only live in an illusion of separation that this is yours and mine. And
Yeah.
so it's the same with titles, you know, about ayahuasca. I heard several first-hand stories of people who had bad experiences. Even some who asked me help after their you know, touristic commercial shamanism.
So that again, you know, somebody who had a bad journey and someone else who did what?
Who asked me for help and advice. I had a couple people
Oh,
at
yeah.
least
Yeah,
after
yeah.
having these kind of bad experiences.
Yeah.
Because you don't play with people's soul and with spirituality and or spirits or medicine. If you start to play with this or try to make a business out of it, it's very risky. There's very heavy karmic consequences, both for the patron and the seller.
Wow, it's heavy. It's scary. It's so scary. I've met people here in Costa Rica. It's becoming such a thing. Like, it was always there, but now it's like blowing up because people are trying to get out of the Western, you know, prison that they're in with everything dramatic and sad and horrific that's happening. So they're coming to this country, and others, Nicaragua, Panama, you know, Ecuador, as a means of escape, and then realizing that they're on a point of a knowing of uplifting of consciousness and being more organic, but they're being guided down that road, that quickie fix, and then they're doing cacao ceremonies, and which is beautiful, but it's like, you know, the kind of gateway into the more risque. Just in terms of shaman, and some people calling themselves shamans, of course, it's absolutely fine in some regards. I was at Chichen Itza last week in Mexico with a man called Quetzal Ra, who is Mayan. His daughter painted this painting. His daughter Ixchel, spelled Ixchel. And I was there with his other daughter, Shiva Rosie, and their mom Asha. And we went to Chichen Itza, and it was incredible being with the shamanic. And at one point he was sitting on the ground, and we were all like laying down and just breathing in the beautiful energies there. And he starts going into some kind of a trance. And at one point, there were like 3 voices coming out of him. Now it's a little bit unnerving. And he was like, you know, all this kind of, it was wonderful and so different. I've never experienced that in my life. And there were the electric, you know, the atoms and neutrons, neutrinos, the particles around him were just buzzing, you know. And I saw this massive kind of sun god being standing on the roof of this temple. And it was just mind blowing. And so this man, Quetzal Ra, who's going to be at my conference in October, as I hope you will too. I know we've spoken about it and we'll speak more later. I'm not ready to announce it yet, but just so people know, they're starting to get an idea of this conference coming up. He comes from a long line of family, a lineage of, so he doesn't just jump in, oh, I'm going to be a shaman today, I'm going to be a Spanish speaking, whatever. No. Okay, so just back to your point again, this is what we're looking for, guys. They're not all good though. They're not all good. Neither are the yogis all good, or the people that devote their lives and they're fiddling around with their students and their devotees. No, we still have to discern, right?
True.
In terms of culture for our Sasquatch family, they're more organic, multidimensional. And what about like simple things like food? Like, how do they eat?
Oh, of course. Well, if you have interdimensional abilities, it's less of a problem. You know, you can be on different planes where you don't feel hunger, but at some point you want to enjoy the physical world. Take a walk in the woods, eat some berries, whatever. There so many stories of them fishing and hunting as well. They used to steal fish from the tribes. Even some tribes, especially the smoked salmon, they seem to like.
Bit of smoked salmon tonight. Oh, that's brilliant.
And there's even tribes who made deal with them. You know, they say, okay, we'll give you some salmon, but like, don't mess with our women, or don't come in our village, or stuff like that. There's many stories like that. There's stories that they offer a deer or an elk to human friends. I've had that happen to me in BC, when one morning there was a nice bulk buck elk laying fresh on our front yard, with a twisted neck, no scratch, nothing. We had elk meat for the winter. So that's the kind of gift that is, I haven't experienced it firsthand, but there's many stories you can see in native accounts about them doing that. They often also will, if they catch a deer, they will clean. I found once, took photos, deer carcass, where all the bones are scraped clean, and the skin is rolled nicely and folded on the side.
Wow.
And so that's the kind of things that give us clues about what they eat. But there's also one thing they taught me that is very significant, is how they do offerings themselves, which is called a spirit plate. It's a tradition known by many native tribes, but the Sasquatch started it. And they take a piece of bark from any tree around, and then they will pick a little bit of every essence of plant growing around and make a plate with it. And that's a way I've been practicing since they showed me the best way to connect with all the living beings when you come to a place and you want to honor that place. And by honoring all the medicines and food that the land offers. So they eat many things that we don't even have any clue about. Like, we could eat reindeer moss and stuff like that. We're just not used to.
Wow. When they're raising their children, do they teach their children, again, I'm going to ask basic questions. I feel I know the answer, but again, I don't want to assume. When they're raising their children, are they raising them like the Andromedans, like with full awareness of everything? Or is there a certain structure to the children's learning?
They are very protective of their children, and they have good reasons too, because well, first, we should all be, and because of the future depends on our children, on all children, and the future not only of our own lineage, but of our own species, of our entire planet. So since there's a long story and well documented of attacks against them, organized hunts, 5,000 years of documented history that covered in my encyclopedia, that of cases where the hairy humanoids were hunted down, captured, killed, and so on, into modern days, when there were all the big powers sent covered military operations after them, whether in Tibet or North America or elsewhere, in China. So there's they have good reason to be protected. Why do they? That's the first thing. That's why the children are less observed. But when you see the children, that means they trust you. They know you. They see your heart, and they know there's no threat or harm to or fear to have with you. So seeing their children is a very great honor. And a few times they showed me their children is like, it's like a gift, it's like saying, you're part of our family. And you hear the same type of accounts too from different, well, I heard some from different native on their land, most natives won't talk about Sasquatch at all to, outsiders or strangers because they've been ridiculed and laughed at so often by ignorant.
Of course, ignorant.
That now they want to know you first. One day they see your heart and they hear your openness, and especially if you have experiences, well, then they will start telling you theirs. And many medicine people have some Sasquatch stories or start being stories to tell.
Just remembered something. I was in Chichen Itza last week. I was with Ketzer, but he doesn't speak English and my Spanish is so ridiculously pathetic. I am learning. So I hired this beautiful man, a Mayan guide, who's been the whole lineage of Mayans. And he's taking me around mainly. We're looking at the pictographs, everywhere, hieroglyphs, and it was an incredible place. And I said to him, we're on our own. I went, come on, give me the lowdown. I said, I know you guys always hold back. And I said, I also know and believe that everywhere I've gone in the world, whenever I've met with an Indigenous guide at a site like Egypt or whatever, that, I get the real truth. We get what's in the books for the Westerners. Oh, you can listen and read this much, but we really want it from the mouth of a beloved, a benevolent, a good, in lineage. And he told me about the little people at Chichen Itza. Right, I just put that together in my mind because that just happened. And I said, do you mean, not, I always say trolls. I don't mean trolls like the goat going over the bridge story with the trolls that were trying to kill the goat. The gnomes, the beautiful gnomes, I learned a long time ago. The gnomes, it sounds so ridiculous. Gnomes, elves, pixies, fairies. The gnomes are the beings that take care of the trees and nurtured the redwoods, the red giants, as they're called. Without the redwoods and that whole, the Sierras, we wouldn't probably have been able to balance the planet before the rest of the beings started coming. That's the thinking of some people, and that's what I've been taught. But it's so wonderful to, connect all these stories, all these ancient stories from everywhere, and then consider how much of them may be part of the Sasquatch heritage. Bringing again, aligning everything into one, which is where we're going. Connecting into one vibration, one spirit, one heart, one ascension. So beautiful. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're so exciting as well. You keep making things trigger in my mind. The Shamanic Journey, the books you've written, the Encyclopedia that you've written, your website is mind-blowing. I got lost on it one night for 3 hours. I just got lost. And I love that it's proper old-fashioned. Thank you. Thank you. Like my broadcast, proper old-fashioned, hit record and off you jolly well go. So your encyclopedia, which I honestly believe, but correct me if I'm wrong, it might be the best start for people to really understand a lot of what you're sharing, because we're never going to cover it in one broadcast. It's too much. So I know it's on your website. Can you please say the name of it for us so people can access it? And I will put your details, but some people don't know that if they click on, this video and they just click underneath that your website will be there. They'll often say, how do I get hold of him? So let's tell people now, and I'll also type it up too. Please go ahead.
All right. Well, sure. Well, I'll just mention their website. First, ScenicSasquatch.com. Scenic, SCENIC, stands for Sasquatch Close Encounter Network for Interspecies Communication. So there on the homepage, you got links to my books. But about the encyclopedia, like you mentioned, you're right. After writing the Sasquatch Message to Humanity series, 3 books, the third of which is a collaboration of 10 international co-authors who channel Sasquatch. But when you talk about Sasquatch, you fall into the fringe margin. And then when you talk about Sasquatch being not an ape but an intelligent, spiritually evolved, psychic, interdimensional being, each word will make you lose some public. each part of the truth, basically. And when you come to channeling Sasquatch, well, you fall really into the fringe of the, I would say, most open-minded people. The thing is, before you read it, you don't know what it says. So I would say 99.9% of the comments I received were amazingly encouraging and positive. But it's still always going to reach only a small part of the public because it's not mainstream, So that's why after this, the Sasquatch asked me, write an encyclopedia. It's called Hairy Humanoids from the Wild, Encyclopedia of All Things Sasquatch. And it can be found on Amazon or Lulu or several servers.
Do we invite people to go to Lulu to get your book?
Thank you.
Thank you. I know all about, I published my book on Lulu too, right? So guys, lulu.com. If you go to Lulu, LULU.com for the hairy humanoids from the wild, and we'll put the details, but okay, say the name of your book again, please.
Hairy Humanoids from the Wild, Encyclopedia of All Things Sasquatch. When they asked me to write this, they said, well, this is more for a wider public. Anyone who has some interest will learn something in this book. And I consulted, it's all documented. I consulted just about all of the literature that existing on Sasquatch, starting with indigenous ancestral tradition, ancient texts and stories, historic records, modern research, first and second-hand experiences, and going into all the unaddressed aspects like the paranormal phenomena, interspecies communication, the structures they make, the gifting, the way they, pretty much I'm convinced, after having consulted hundreds of sources on Sasquatch and Bigfoot and all that, this encyclopedia is the most complete ever written, because it goes in all the sources and we sort it out and we bring conclusion of what the facts are from. And we also expose hoaxes. It exposes hoaxes, misleading theories, speculations, and cover up, because there's a huge cover up, as well as covered ups. There's a lot of powers interested in Sasquatch and extraterrestrial. They have huge means invested in secret programs to deal with those issues that they can't control.
Of course, and they never will. They've already failed. I mean, imagine when people really start to absorb the loving conscious fact, the reality that the Sasquatch, Yeti, Bigfoot is a much more evolved species than us, the human. They're not some dumbed down animal. And when people's minds start opening up to concepts like this and realities, and getting books like yours from lulu.com, because then he'll at least get more than 5 cents or 75 cents. Whereas Amazon, we've got to let people know you've made a whole life dedicated to this beautiful information, and you have been sharing it. And and struggling. You admitted that earlier. Like it's an impoverished existence, and it bloody well shouldn't be. If we put people to lulu.com, when they do buy the book, and they start to learn all the different tribal knowledge, other people's knowledge, yours, the reality. Oh my God! Yes, it's an encyclopedia. Thank goodness. And I absolutely do believe. I trust with all of my being. That's why I do these broadcasts. That doing these kind of broadcasts in the mainstream, pushing out. I mean, BoobTube. There's some really dark people that run BoobTube. and we know who you are. Your time's up, get lost. So I have to be, I'm restricted, and it's not good for me to be, because I get so excited because look at what you're bringing. So I don't believe the fringe exists anymore. The powers that thought they were, or whatever, you know, the old guard has been taken down, unplugged from the big technological powers and extraterrestrials. And here we are on planet Earth now, falling into love, falling into each other, falling into all of the divisions that were of all the species that are more evolved in some regard to us. And it's fantastic. So the fringe will now be being pulled back, the curtains pulled back, the light is shining, and we're all coming to meet people like you. I want to ask you a question. Do you know a beautiful man called James Gilliland? James Gilliland.
By name, he has my encyclopedia, as far as I know.
He has your encyclopedia. I'm glad I'm asked, because I intuitively felt that there's a connection between you two. I also want to say that I interviewed James Gilliland, and I absolutely adore and respect him hugely. So guys that don't know James, or most of you will, James Gilliland has a ranch out in a place called Mount Adams, which is Northern California, where there is UFO phenomena the whole time. If that man's footage was put on the news instead of that ridiculous nonsense military, ooh, here's the tic tac, ooh, look at that. Excuse me, that's boring. Wait till you see the footage that James Gilliland has, and the people that go visit him and just sit outside of an evening. But James, like you, he honors the information he has. He honors his branch. He honors the things he sees with his own. He doesn't get influenced. He's not taking down different roads and joining different things. And I would love to see you and him together. I would love to see him have a conversation with you. I really feel that would bring a really beautiful insight to bring two great men like you, in my opinion, great men, because I've met you both and interviewed you both. That would be a wonderful offering and honoring of yourselves, your knowledge, and to the public. And again, getting rid of this bloody fringe nonsense, you know, because we've got no time for that. I know we're kind of coming to the end slightly of this, but I would like to ask you, could you share at least one or two more actual physical, when you physically saw Sasquatch, not just channeled through, although that's important, but tell us, because that's so intriguing to everybody.
Well, there's many, but often, again, when I say come in the physical, what density, you know, it's like sometimes they appear and disappear. They can leave footprints or even touch you. They can be in a dense form, leaving footprints in while invisible. So what is physical exactly? Maybe we're still learning what it means. You know, maybe it's just a matter of density or frequency that is it when it starts reflecting the light? So that means it's vibrating lower than the speed of light. That's what physical matter is. Then when it starts vibrating faster than the speed of light, the light just goes through. So we don't see it with our physical eyes, but we can at times see a shimmer, or we can, you know, there's no limit. It's infinite in the interdimensional multiverse we're part of. So physical sightings, it's one of the best I can say, you know, is that I was given hair several time, and I got a very big piece from my elder's elder, Camus. And I put it on my medicine pipe, sacred pipe. I've shared them since many times in ceremonies with native elders, among others. And they all honor this, you know, the Sasquatch Message, to touch it and everything. Sometimes he showed up, him or others, you know, around ceremonies. They like ceremonies. They like when we get together and to heal ourselves and to help each other, to support our healing journeys. They really love that, because we're learning to be better beings, better humans, more aware, more loving, more wise, and better caretakers, which is what we are meant to be, just like they are. in other words, better elders. Because when we become elders, what do? We take care. We watch over the younger ones. We teach them. We help them in their journey. We cannot do the walk for them, but we can show them how we made it. So that's what the Sasquatch and Star Elders are doing with us. They cannot solve our own karma for us, but they will help us if we work on it. They will assist and give their teachings and guidance.
Mm-hmm. So that was one that evening, taking the medicine, you saw one. You're talking about when the light particles, or when they come into this space-time continuum, everything solidifies into physical form. And then you're saying when they go, sometimes you'll see them more as light, or sometimes you'll see them more as solid, depending on where they position themselves in between different dimensions. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, there's many ways. Like I said, it can manifest, whether calls. You know, sometimes I was calling back and forth, or could be far in the wood, or it could be next to you. Sometimes I hear like a whirlwind come around me, and I hear a whisper in my ear to say, "We're here."
Oh.
Sometimes it can be a touch you feel.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hear knocks, you hear footsteps, you hear trees shaken and broken. That's just about hearing, but we can see them. We can see them. Once with another communicator, we got surrounded by 15 Sasquatch we could see, and a spaceship flew just above.
So you could see 15 Sasquatch physically around you, and you could see a spaceship. Was this nighttime or daytime? It
started at dusk, and it lasted pretty much all night.
And did you communicate with them, sit down with them? Were you just aware? Okay, go on, tell more.
Definitely. Well, that was when I returned 38 years later to the place of my first encounter, the story I was telling you at the beginning, when the Sasquatch put down our camp. So I returned there with a Sasquatch communicator, a friend, and we looked. We found the old structures that they had put down, and right in front we found a beautiful structure the Sasquatch had built with green boughs in it, so it was freshly made. We decided to camp there, and then they started to manifest, started by the grandmother, the matriarch, who first started talking to me. I could see her clearly. I tried to film, they didn't show anything. Then she showed herself to my friend. I talked to him and did a healing on him. And then she said, "You're now ready to meet us." And then the male elder or patriarch came. He was the one who had put down my camp 38 years.
Ah, he kicked your camp down all those years ago.
Yeah.
For disrespecting
He's the keeper of the river. So he explained to me why he did that. And he told me that he doesn't apologize. Because it's his job, but he's glad to see I have learned. So now he doesn't have to teach me that again. And from there on, they introduced us to their clan member, and one by one came back. And the tallest was 12 feet tall. It was like their big guy. You know, they were proud of him. So after a while. Talking, they were telling me about their lineage. Of course, when I said talking, it's telepathic. And they told me they were of the oldest Sasquatch lineage on Earth. And so I mentioned my elder, Camus. I said, "You must know him." And they said, "Yeah, he's our elder." And I asked, "Is he around?" And they said, "Well, ask him." So I sent a message and I asked Camus, are you around? And he said, "I'm very far on a spaceship, but I hear you." So I said, "Are you coming?" And he said, "Okay, I'm coming." And a second later, my friend said, "Look up." And we look up, and there's a big spaceship coming. It hovered above the Fraser River, about 100 feet above the river. It turned into big green light, and then it dimmed, and it flew again above us. There was 3 lights under it. And it's went and sat on the mountain for almost the whole rest of the night. And that's when Camus arrived with a startled. And of course, that tells you, like, from the first time we went there, when I didn't know nothing, pretty much got kicked out. 38 years later, when we go and they come in group to meet us, because we know how to approach them and how to respect them. And we're there to learn friendship and peace.
How all connections of all species should be. Take nothing, just bring your love, bring your kindness. And these are the gifts, because you learned the lessons that they were now happy that you're not a crazy person, you're not going to trick them, because they can read you, they can scan you. So anyone that are thinking, great, I'm going to go to the Fraser River and I'm going to pretend, oh yeah, and then try and catch one, and they don't even bother. Just stay home with your toys, please. I got a couple of questions on this incredible meeting of the 15. You mentioned that the matriarch, the grandmother energy, physical Sasquatch, when she came up to you physically, how tall was she? What color was her fur? And do they all have different eye colors? I assume they do, because we've got black people in our, white, we're all different species ourselves, but again, never assume. So describe her, please. Oh, sorry, before I forget, please describe the matriarch, the grandmother, eye color, skin, fur. But when people can call out to them, what is the sound they might make if they're coming from the right respectful mindset?
First, there are as diverse as us human, and even more. So, if you take an Inuit and Aboriginal Australian and an African and an American, a British person, let's say, we all look human, of course, we all look different. We have different traits, different characteristics.
Yeah.
Well, for the Sasquatch, what I noticed from my experience of many encounters, the color of their hair has nothing to do with their race or lineage. It's just like us human. We can have all kind of different color of hair or eyes. So it's pretty much like it for them. The skin even is it's hard to say, because in a wolf pack, for instance, the same litter can have black, white, gray, yellow wolf in the same family. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty much the same, I think, with the Sasquatch. That grandmother looked gray in color to me, dark gray. Very loving, smiling face, very, very ancient. Sorry, I forgot your second question about.
When you said that you can call out to the Sasquatch,
yeah,
if you're coming from a loving, respectful, genuine place, what would be that sound or that light, that vibrational frequency? What would be that to say hi?
Yeah, personally, I don't very often call out, but I usually answer back. And what I hear the most, like as far as vocals, they have a huge diversity, variety of sounds they can make, from whistles, whispers, grunts, roar. They can talk, they can sing, they can do pretty much just about everything we can and more, because they have a very huge lung capacity. They have a loudest voice, strongest voice in nature. Yeah, they can be very gentle. They can be whispering and mumbling. The sound I hear the most, usually when they want to greet you, is what I call the friendly hoot, when it is more like a ooh, ooh. But like, people don't try to replicate, because next individual will sound different, but you get the message, you get the energy. And to say, the last time I heard it was January 1st, actually, on New Year's Eve.
Ah.
When I just moved to this region a couple of months ago, and old friends around here, and one friend was doing a New Year celebration at home, and he has a ceremonial teepee in his backyard. And as we were standing outside, we heard this call just very close from us. And it was a female voice. And we're in the middle of the wood. There's 8 people in the house, and no neighbors or anything. And so he asked me, "Do you hear that?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "That's a Sasquatch." And just as we connected, I heard the footsteps come close. Didn't say anything, but it was close enough. And this invitation to connect, because I'm arriving in this new region, and this brother, among others, is one who's open and ready to learn about them. So far, I've assisted probably over 100 people in having the first contact or contacts, and many people also ask me advice about how to interpret and assimilate their experiences. And one of the big things that the Sasquatch ask us to do, just like the star family, cosmic family, is to disclosure, to finally break the silence, the cover-up, and to reveal what has been hidden and must be known in this time for our next quantum leap, evolutionary quantum leap. So this is part of what I'm doing with my books and website, and also I encourage people to share their own experiences. So far, there's about 200 people who have shared their experiences on my website, and many for them is the first time. So I think that's what disclosure is all about, is us telling the truth and not asking any government or any institution to do it for us.
We don't need permission. We were hoping that the apparent leadership across the planet was going to do its job. Its job is to serve the people, make sure no cold people, hungry people, starving people, mentally unwell, none of that. They've all failed. Every single one has failed without question. And so now all of us, with all of our beautiful skills and talents and truths and abilities, no matter what, we are sharing, sharing, sharing. And I've been saying to everyone, get on YouTube, make a channel, tell your story. Don't think you're going to be famous. None of us make money doing this. Oh my God. We're just trying to get as much information out as possible, because no human can ever tell, not your mum, your dad, your nan, your granddad, your dog, your cat. No one can tell you no. No, no to authority. No, I rebuke authority unless it's for the people, decided by the people. That's where I'm at right now. So thank you so much. This is just incredible. One more final question. I mean, there are about 6,000 more I'd love to ask, but I don't want to wear you out or abuse my opportunity to actually sit and be with you. The spaceship that you said came with Camus, the elder, what does that, you described the lights beautifully, but what shape was that spaceship, please?
So they're often shape-shifting. So when it was just above us, it looked triangular from the 3 lights we could see, but when it was just next to us, it looked more like a oval
disc.
Yeah. So it's another thing I'd like to say concerning star beings, that they range also in a infinite, huge diversity of people with different interests and backgrounds and levels of consciousness. They're not all benevolent, just like us human. There's not all people are good or wanting good.
Yes.
We're all a little bit of mixture of good and bad. Actually, we're learning balance and healing. So it's the same story on a cosmic scale everywhere in the universe.
Mm.
So when I meet them, like this time, for instance, is one of the cases when I see the spaceship and I have a telepathic communication with them, and I used to ask, where are you from? Because that's the question we're all curious about. You know, we, us human, we look at the sky, we see the brightest star, Sirius, the second brightest, Arcturus, brightest constellation, the Pleiades, and that's our extent of our knowledge of the cosmos, right? So we talk about Sirian, Pleiadian, Orion, because they're the stars we all know. But when I asked the star people where they come from, they told me they come from a lot of places I never heard about, that I probably don't even see with my naked eyes. And among themselves, when you get to that level of consciousness, spiritual consciousness, when you can connect in telepathy, you cannot lie anymore. You can work in interdimensional levels. Those what I call the star elders, council of star elders. They're all together, regardless where they come from. It's like we could say a pale comparison, like the United Nations for us. But they come from everywhere, and it's to reach that council, to join that council. It's not where you come from that counts, it's your level of consciousness. Are you ready to do the job? So that council is theoretically open for us human to join if we work hard enough to get because our ancestors used to be part of it. So now the Sasquatch, according to many teachings and prophecies, that's why they're reaching out. They're wanting this disclosure to happen, so we can reconnect with our star family and basically raise our consciousness to a greater empathy and greater understanding of the cosmic fabrics and the multiverse we're part of.
Beautiful, beautiful. And, you know, from everything you've gifted us today, I love the idea and the thinking that this beautiful beingness, the Sasquatch, the mums, the dads, the grandparents, the elders, the children, I would like to acknowledge that the kindness and the love and the serenity they gift and the encouragement amongst each other. And that what a beautiful lesson if we humans would honestly, genuinely apply that rather than be abusive. There's so much abuse in every family. And it's time to really bring in that, imbue that love, that kindness, like everyone's suffering. So older people will attack younger people because it makes them feel better for a minute. But those younger ones are being left with scars and emotional scars. And some of them are like, am I going to get fed later? Like they're running on survival mode anyway. And it's just awful what's been happening. But the more we bring love, the more we hear stories like this, and imagine this culture, this evolved culture, being so loving, you know, being so kind, and that for us humans to breathe in that love and imbue it and be that, you know, be that, which is our natural nature, not necessarily the nurture that we received or didn't receive, but the natural nature. Humans, we are loving beings, brilliant, loving beings, highly conscious beings. What would your final words be, my love, to everybody or from them?
To be human is a blessing, but it's not all. They are spiritual beings in this human body, in this plane, physical plane on a beautiful Mother Earth, life-giving planet, home planet, of which we are the caretakers. To be the good caretakers, we have to remember our soul, our connection with every living soul, every forms of life, empathy, feel empathy, so we can be a good example and leave good tracks for future generations and bring the world in a better direction.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your share. Thank you for bringing the energetics, the understanding and the feelings and essence of the beloved Sasquatch, the Yeti, the Bigfoot. I really hope that this will bring so much to you guys out there, such a different way of thinking. And, you know, as SunBow said, he's physically sat with the beings, the Sasquatch physically many times, but they don't allow pictures to be taken. And that's not a proving point that everybody needs. And like they say to other people, can't you take your mobile phone on board the ship? No, you know, it's slowly coming in, but now, we are going to see more, you know, and I love it. So guys, blessings to you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Flipping heck, wild, blew my mind. You've blown my mind. Please go to SunBow Bear's website. Again, the details will be under this video. His book, The Hairy Humanoid from the Wild. Go to lulu.com, which is a publishing house, which means that he will get, you know, his due. He will be paid rather than Amazon, who just take up most of the profits of everybody. Thank you for bringing in the Cree, the Coyote, the Hopi. Again, the more that we bring that energy to our beloved, you know, Indigenous brothers and sisters, the more everyone is going to be absorbing and picking up and coming into that pool of consciousness of raising higher frequency of love for our planet. I feel that that's as much as we should cover at this point. But my guys, my beautiful audience and the new people coming in, SunBow's audience, please, if you would like him to come back again and play with me, and if you have questions for him, sensible, specific questions, I'm sure that he would be happy to come back. Do you want to put you on the spot, would you, if the occasion arises?
Sure. I'm sorry if for the noise, because my neighbor just decided to plow right now. But
Okay, good.
Yeah, sure. I'm open to give interviews when there's an audience and there's interested follow up.
Excellent, lovely. Thank you so much, SunBow there. All right, guys. So thank you for watching. And yes, be kind, be sensible, be loving. And I send you my love, and I see you soon.
All right.